Hi everyone, welcome to Tim's Vinyl Confessions. I'm Tim Derling. Thank you for watching. This one's a kind of a special episode. Bit of a birthday episode and an anniversary episode. The anniversary part of it, it's just about 4 years this weekend that I started doing these shows. And really thankful for all the support I've gotten. I've gotten to know some cool people and talk a lot about music, which is the thing I most like to talk about. So thank you for following along. Really do appreciate it. The anniversary aspect of it is that. Birthday aspect of it, well, this is my birthday. Thank you. And also, the band that I'm doing it on has two members that are celebrating a birthday. Joseph Williams, currently vocalist for Toto, celebrates a birthday, and also keyboard player Steve Picaro. So I thought I'd go through my Toto collection. Now, it's interesting because Toto's a band that, of course, I mean, growing up in the 80s, you couldn't avoid hearing songs by Toto. Never really paid as much attention as I should have to how good a band they really were. They had some great songs, obviously. I found that when they got mellow, it was very mellow, kind of more mellow than I would have liked. But I didn't. So I wanted to have some of their songs. Basically, what I'm saying. The songs that they were really good at, and I also found that they were getting talked about more and more. And they have been quite some time, and actually in recent months it's been almost cool to talk about Toto because of the whole Weezer covering Africa and Rosanna, and then Toto answering back covering Hash Pipe, and it's been kind of a cool thing. People are rediscovering just how good this band is. Of course, Toto, made up of master musicians, top session musicians, have played on million successful albums from the 70s and 80s, not least of which are Michael Jackson's Thriller. Songwriters, you know. So anyway, my collection is still very much a work in progress, but I wanted to go through the Toto stuff that I do have and sort of bring things up to the present. So I'll start off with the first Toto album, which came out in 1978. Cool artwork on this. The sword thing, they would come back to this theme at different times. This is a Canadian edition on Columbia Records. This album, they got off to a bang. Hold the Line comes off this record, one of my favorite songs. Probably one of my all-time favorite songs now that I think about it. It was a top 5 single. Here's the lyrics to the songs and a photo of the band. This album also has the distinction of including a song which is not one of my favorites, but has become kind of a running gag. My wife Sarah and I really enjoy listening to yacht rock radio, which is songs from the 70s and early 80s that used to be termed soft rock. Yacht rock is, I'll let you guys look it up if you don't know what yacht rock is all about, but Toto is a band that I like that actually shows up in the yacht rock stations, but for some reason they have this love affair with playing the song Georgie Porgy, which is probably one of their worst songs in my opinion. It doesn't do anything for me, and I find most of it just consists of that repeated chorus for I don't know how long it goes on. But anyway, if you don't know what I'm talking about, once you're done watching this, type in Toto, Georgie Porgy, and you're welcome. Anyway, this is their first album on CD. It's a usual CBS issue of a CD from the 80s, probably, but what's different about it is instead of being white on the side with red lettering, it is black with red lettering. So I'm not sure at what point this would have come out. Although I've always known that CBS must have released a ton of back catalog CDs in 1986 because there's always 2 copyright dates in a lot of the ones I have. So this is 1978 and 1986. Whether it's Aerosmith or Journey or Kansas, REO Speedwagon, there were a lot of reissues or issues of CDs done in 86 for CBS artists. No big surprises on the CD itself. That's pretty typical looking. It does have a booklet in it that has all of the lyrics. So, more or less complete. Second Toto album came out in 1979, and right now I've only got it on vinyl. It's called Hydra. Very cool cover. Harder rocking than it actually is musically, but always great music. This is a Canadian edition, also on Columbia. This is a gatefold. This one didn't do quite as well as their first album. The biggest single was the song 99. Lyrics were all handwritten, apparently. And because it was a successful debut, they got a customized label on the record itself, again using the sword motif. The third Toto album, so far, has turned out to be one of my favorites, and it was a complete dud when it came out. It was not a successful album, and it almost got the band dropped from the record label. So of course it's one of my favorites. It's called Turn Back. I like the simplicity of this album cover. You know, it's a face, but it says Toto. And this is another Canadian issue. More of a straight-ahead rock-oriented album. I mean, these guys are capable of doing various genres of music. Not a lot of R&B. There's not really anything R&B influenced or more overtly pop influenced in this album. This is just a good, typical rock album from 1981. And it sounds like it, too. It's some good stuff on here. And still a customized label. And I also have Turn Back on CD. Just a US version. Interesting, some of these older CDs that says CBS here and not the Columbia. Well, it does have the Columbia logo, but it doesn't say Columbia. I'm not sure why those decisions were made. And it has the lyrics and credits as the record does. Now, of course, the big one for Toto, I mean, if you're talking about bands of this era, you know, Journey had Escape. That was their biggest single-selling studio album. Foreigner, their 4th album, REO Speedwagon, High Infidelity. And for Toto, it was also their 4th album. And here it is right here. This is the one you've probably seen the most. This one had Rosanna and Africa. This is the big one for them. This CD copy I got is actually a pretty old Canadian issue with the typical blocky look to the boxy look to the back cover. Someone wrote some numbers at the after where it says Africa here, the 10th track. Not really sure why. That CD looks the same. Also says CBS on it. More writing on the back of this. I'm not really sure why. But I like these old CDs. This one actually has some credits in it. No lyrics, but just a breakdown of song by song. Another one of my favorite Toto albums was the next one to come out in 1984. Wasn't as successful. It's called Isolation. Again, slightly more rock-oriented album. It contains one of my favorite Toto songs with Stranger in Town. I highly recommend you check out the video. It's like a mini movie, black and white, starring Brad Dourif. If you don't know who that is, you'll turn the video and go, oh, that guy, I know him. So anyway, it's the first of 2 albums that Toto would do in this year, actually, which I didn't always know about. Of course, there's always been band member changes here and there. A lot of different lead singers have taken time in Toto. Their original lead singer was Bobby Kimball. He was replaced by a guy named Fergie Fredrickson, who was replaced by Joseph Williams, and it goes on from there. Core of the band, the one remaining member is just really, really cool guy, I think, seems like, and the most rock guy in Toto is the guitar player Steve Lukather, who's actually just published a memoir called The Gospel According to Luke, which I'd love to read because I think more than anyone, I think he's played on the most variety of albums. You know, everything from Alice Cooper to Olivia Newton-John and everything in between. But that's another story. So like I said, Isolation, first of 2 Toto albums to come out in 1984. The second one is this. This is original soundtrack recording to David Lynch's adaptation of Dune. Very unusual movie. I've watched it. Well, I own it. Not sure I get it. But Toto provided the soundtrack music, and it actually is not on CBS, Columbia. It's on Polydor, and this is a Canadian version of the Dune soundtrack. Now, it's all Toto except for, I think, the main theme, the prophecy theme, that was done by Brian Eno, but Toto did the rest of it. So it doesn't say Toto on the front or side of this, but it says it on the back. And yes, that's Sting. He has a very small role in the movie. They played it up a lot, I think, when it originally came out. That's what the CD itself looks like. So it's all instrumental, but it's one of those things that you kind of, it's fun to throw on if you're working on something. I kind of enjoy something like that. Some more scenes from the movie and band photo and discussion about the making of the soundtrack album. Last piece of vinyl I've got to show you is the next Toto album, which came out in 1986, called Fahrenheit. This is a Canadian vinyl version on Columbia. The big hit single off of this one was I'll Be Over You. And I don't know if there was a lyric sheet with it originally, but the copy I have does not have one. Typical Columbia label for this one. And I also have this on CD. And like my copy of Toto 4, this is an old Canadian CD version. Like I said, I like these ones more than I did when I first started buying CDs because, you know, compared to the US versions, they just looked, not lazy, but they just looked cheap or something. You know, for instance, if you were to buy this in the States, the back cover of it would probably just have this on it, right? And it wouldn't have this, just the plain font. It would have, for you fact collectors, it's called Impact. If you type in Impact, what you get is the, it looks just like that. That's Impact. That's something I've learned over the years. That's the CBS font, or it was. So now, I mean, I'm missing a bunch. I'm missing stuff all over the place. So next things I got to show you are all compilations. Sony put up Essential line, and all of their artists got the Essential treatment. This is the 2-disc version of the Essential Toto. And this is a pretty good collection. This spans, you know, all the Toto songs that you even think you might want to hear in one place if you're just a casual listener. You know, the single disc one would be fine for the big radio hits, but for some deeper album tracks that kind of make you want to explore further, this one's the one to get. This is actually a European version of it. All it's still on the Columbia label. So it's pretty elaborate credits here. This originally came out in 2004, and there is that's all the albums to that point. Now you'll notice the Dune soundtrack not on there because it's not on Sony, and there's a write-up about the band here too. In Canada, Sony put out like very budget-priced compilations, and I picked one up. Same cover. It's Best of Toto Collections. But if you're, you know, got a hankering to hear, you know, the biggest Toto songs, and this is what you see, and it's cheap, check it out. Hold the Line, Rosanna, Africa. I mean, it starts off big, so it'll scratch that itch for you. Now, unfortunately, as of this filming, I was hoping to get a copy of what is so far the most recent Toto studio album, which is called Toto 14, which came out in 2015. Amazon didn't come through for me. It shouldn't take 11 days for something to ship from a seller in Canada. So anyway, I did listen to it on YouTube. Somebody put the entire album up, and it is really, really good. Really good. I'm looking forward to getting the CD, because that's the type of guy I am. But anyway, in earlier this year, I picked this up actually on Record Store Day. Another compilation came out from Sony. It's called 40 Trips Around the Sun. And it's another single disc compilation, but this is quite a good one. It's actually got 3 unreleased songs. 2 of them are brand new. One, Spanish Sea, is actually, the backtrack is from 1984. So, and it was updated, new lyrics, I think. I'm not sure exactly what was old and what was new, but it was a chance for the surviving members of Toto to play with Jeff Porcaro, the drummer who passed away in '92, one of the best drummers ever, and his brother Mike Porcaro, bass player who died of ALS just a few years back, very, very tragically. But this is a good collection of songs. As far as the new ones, I particularly like the first track alone. It's really, really good. There's the CD. This might be your most common one because it's quite recent. And it's worth picking up if you're interested in checking this band out more. That's an old photo of the band. And it's got all the lyrics to all the songs in here. This is the core band as it exists now. And like I said earlier, Toto repaid the favor that Weezer did for them by covering their songs, and they covered Weezer's Hash Pipe. And I'm not a digital guy. I like having a physical copy of something. I really like their rendition of Hash Pipe. I think it's very cool, very rocking, but it sounds like Toto doing it. Almost makes me wish for the days of the CD single, but who knows? It might end up on an album down the road. And there's a lot more Toto I need to check out, so there'll be expanded episodes, but for now, that's my work in progress Toto collection. Thank you very much for watching Tim's Final Confessions.